growing old. Our California snow has sprouted, so now it's time for us to prep our tent. Okay, so our seeds popped, and it's time for us to prep our tents. Now, what I like to start off with is I got this off the internet. It's called Interfloron. It's a food lube. They lube food machinery with it. So I like to use this on the zippers. I've seen people use WD-40, but all that's going to do, because this is food grade, it's not going to attract a lot of dust. WD-40 is going to collect a lot of dust, and I personally don't want any of the WD-40 haze falling on any of my plants. So this is what I use. I just spray it on. And since we're talking zippers, let's look at something I consider very important. Some people may think zippers, but I feel there's a proper way to open your tent. Now, in my mind, the wrong way is to open it all the way at first. Now you can see how that collapses in, and that's just going to fall in on our plants. Once they start getting big and bushy, now you're messing with that. Maybe it falls in your water or something. So let's zip that back up. Now you can see how easy the zipper is when I use that lubricant. Now let's look at the way I feel is the proper way to open up a tent. I'm going to take both zippers and I'm going to go about that far. Now on these AC Infinities, there's a little line, and basically what it is, that's kind of where the flat ends and the curve starts. So I like to go just about to that line. And then you can see how my tent hasn't collapsed in on my plants. But more importantly to me than it falling on my plants is if I just do that, what happens is a lot of times I'll get stuck up here and your zipper is going to go. And that's the first thing it's going to go before you use your zipper. So now let's look inside the tent. Let's practice one more time. Now I'm just going to grab it. And I'm going to open it all the way up, and I like to take the Velcro and I like to hook it up. Okay, now that we've opened up our tent, let's look and see how we've got it set up. Let's start at the top. At the top, first thing pops out, we'll get to this equipment here. This, I think, little Govee temperature and humidity detector. What it does is it'll send the information to your phone. You can just check it. I like using those because then even when I'm out of town, I know how hot it is, how cold it is. I can always give a call home and say, hey, why don't you check that out? What we got up here is my exhaust fan. This whole unit, it's an AC Infinity. It's a 6-inch. And what I got here, this is a filter, charcoal filter. It's wrapped in a cover. It's a little dirty. I didn't quite get it clean enough. But then I've got it connected straight to the AC Infinity exhaust. And then down at the bottom, I've got another one that comes in. I believe that's a T6, and the bottom one is an S6. I got them hooked together so they run in conjunction with this probe. It tells you the temperature and humidity. Next thing we look at, let's talk about fans. Now, you may not need that, but if you want to keep the smells down because some strains they're pretty loud, which means they put off a lot of odor. So you may not want that. But that's why I use this. And then the fans are in there. They're to keep these little fans. These are just, I got these off of Amazon. They're called Homes. They're like 12 bucks, I think. And what I use them for is to keep my light cool, because that light will get super hot. And then I like to cool that off. The other fans I've got in here, they're there mainly to circulate the air so that my plants, it's just like being outside. The air's circulating, maybe they're blowing back and forth in the breeze. And what that'll do is that'll strengthen the stalks and everything, but not a big massive blow, but just keep the air circulating, keeps it a little bit cooler. And now let's look down a little lower. Oh, the light. This light is a covert light, 630 watts. It is adjustable from 250 to 630. And once I get my plants fresh in here, I'll probably dial it down to the 250, just so they get some light. But I don't want to burn them out because that's a 630 watt light, and it'll burn out those plants. Now let's slide down a little bit. Okay, so what we're looking at down here is this is how we've got this set up. I'm growing autos, and I'm using the AutoPot system. So this is what it looks like. I'll try and get a better view inside there. So you can see how I've got it piped out. But one of the reasons I'm using these hoods, you're like, well, what are you using the domes for? Well, because when I first bring them out, you know, they're just going to be young seedlings. And right now, in the other tent that I've got them in, I still have them covered with a dome to keep the moisture in there. And when I bring them out here, I'll put these domes on them, and I'll close them up, because when you're in a small little tent, the plants themselves will create some humidity, so you're pretty good. But in this tent, there won't be any humidity in it for quite a while. I'll have to pump that in myself. So you want to use these. I'm going to try these to keep the humidity in until they get bigger, and then I'll pull them off, and then they'll start making their own humidity, and it'll keep it nice and humid in there. Another thing you could use is I've used these in the past, just a little humidifier. Put a couple of them in, and then you just run them. But I only use those at the very beginning to pump up, because they become a pain, and you got to fill them all the time. What I like to use is I just use some tin pans. I like to double pan it, because when you put the water in here, after a while, it'll leak through the pan. The pan will dissolve and it'll leak. And then I like to use a sponge, just like a cigar humidor. Think of it that way. So now I got my water, I got my wet sponge, then I just put it in the corner, and I got a fan blowing on it, just like the clone tent. Got a fan blowing on the water, creating the humidity. So now I've got all the humidity in there I need. These little lines, what they go to are my hanging ropes. And I just go online. These are some Vivosun hanging ropes. And I hang everything with these ropes, so you'll need to get some of those. But once these plants are to a point where I'm going to pull this off, then I'm going to adjust my light to the proper height, which is probably about 30 inches, maybe a little less, and then raise it. And then I'll take these, I'll wrap them up, and then I'll string tie them up there so it's a little neater and they're not going around. Right now, I just leave them down because I'm going to have to lower this light and then I'll have to raise them. Behind us, we'll show some footage of that, is my whole electrical setup and the reservoirs. And we'll show you that. And you can think of, what if I don't have the room, or what if I don't have the funds. Well, we're going to set up because one of these plants that I'm going to grow, we're going to grow in a 3x3 Vivosun tent. We're still going to use the AutoPots. Okay, so if I'm hand watering, you know, I'm going in there and I'm getting around. Eventually, this is going to be big and bushy. It's going to be in the back of the tent, and I'm not going to be able to get back there. So what I did is I took some PVC, this was a long time ago, and I just drilled a bunch of holes in the PVC, and then I set it in there. And then I decided another one I did like this, and I like this one because I can get water there. Had I been smart and really needed them, I'd have connected it like that, and we'd have just got it all the way around. Then I take these stakes, and I just poke them down in here to keep it in place. And then you can either just water like this, or you put a funnel in there, because I usually put a funnel in there, and then you can water in there, and it'll seep out. But now let's build this other tent. Well, now let's set up this smaller tent. This is an option for people who don't have the room, maybe you don't have the funds, because this tent, all of those AC Infinity tents, they were about $200, so they're not that bad. This tent, I think I got it on sale for like $110, maybe it was $99. But it's a 3x3 Vivosun, and these tents are great. And what I got in here is I got an HLG 300 watt light, and it also is, you can adjust it, you can dim it. And what I'll do once we put a plant in here is I will dim it right down, and then just like the other tent, until it gets to where I think the plant is able to take the whole light, and then we'll do that. Again, we got our lines hanging down from our hanging ropes. This is a temperature probe, and I use it, I got it off of, those heat masks that you get. You got a probe with it, and I just use it to tell the outside temperature, but mostly I go off of this Govee that's up here. Again, you can see we've got fans, AC Infinity fans rotating back and forth and blowing. We got the Homes fan up here, going to keep my light cool. And now let's make our way down, and let's put together one of these AutoPots. Okay, so we're going to put together this AutoPot. Now I use the AutoPots because I found that, well, I'm getting a little old, so hand watering a bunch of plants kind of takes me all day. But what I found since using these AutoPots is I get more healthy plants. I get really tight nugs, and the health of the plant is just better. I get an overall yield is much higher, so I'm going to stick with the AutoPots. But let's start putting them together. First off, what you're going to want to do is you want to figure out how you're going to run your AutoPot in there. You can run it like this, and the hose will connect over here, or this way, or this way. For me, I'm going to run it like this, because I'm going to bring my water in from there to right here in the middle. And this is my aqua valve, and this is what's going to control the water going in and out. So let's do that first. Let's unscrew this. First thing we need to do is we need to put a grommet in this here. And the grommet looks like this because I'm going to stick this hose in this grommet. Now you could use dishwashing liquid or something. I'm old school, I just use some spit. Stuff that in there. Now let's run our hose through it. Pull yourself enough through so you can work with it. The next step is we're going to connect this. First, don't forget the cap that you took off. Make sure you put it in the proper way. Then again, dishwasher liquid or spit. There it is, pushed on. Bring up your collar. Tighten that up. Now, in the bottom of these, there's a little T over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to push this over that T. So we just pour hose through. Okay, now that we've got our valve in, make sure that when I'm getting it over that T, I'm pressing on the drag, because this black will crack and break, and then you'll have to replace that. Now I put it in, and this is the way I want it to work. Now we got these valves. That come with your AutoPot, and what these are for is turning on and off your water. Now if I was running multiple AutoPots in here, like my bigger tents, what I would do is I would use a couple of these. I would use one so I could just shut the water off to each individual AutoPot system, so that I can troubleshoot it. If I'm having problems, I can figure out what my problem is, like a leak. I can figure out where that is. And then I would have another one at the end of the whole system, so that I could just open it up and we could just drain it. But I think for here, I'm just going to use the one. Now the way we're going to do it is, I got my scissors, and here's a T, so I'm going to have to put this T in, because I'm going to have to go to the AutoPot, to the reservoir, and to a bleed function, so I can drain it. So, get this little piece and just put it on here. Then I'm going to put this, I'm going to close it, making sure my little water droplet on there is crosswise with the valve. That means it's closed. I'll put that on the end here. I'll save that for a moment. So let's figure out how far back we want to cut. Because I prefer them to be in a straight line from where it's coming in. So I'll pull it back a little bit. Okay, I just cut that line, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it so that I can go straight, because I'm going to put this end, in here, and this end is going to go out. So let's connect this. And we'll connect this end. And that's what it looks like for now. And then when I put it in here, see this end will be, because I'll have another stopper up here, another valve up there to stop it at the reservoir. But this will allow it to come in, go in, and then this if I want to drain anything out of it. Okay, so now we're going to start hooking up the reservoir. I'm going to make sure that that's all like that. I'll put my cover over here. So I figure I'm going to want to put one in right here. Again, let's make sure we got it turned off because we don't need it on for now. Like a hookah. Okay, so now this one is so we can shut off the reservoir if we need to do any troubleshooting there, or if we're done, we can shut it off and then we can take care of the water and stuff out of that. Now let me close up my tin and we'll start on the outside. Okay, now we've hooked our hoses up inside and I'm bringing my hose out. Now I did cheat, I put some tape down to hold them in place. But now we're going to put this has to go into my reservoir, and what it's going to do is going to plug into my filter body, and then I have a little filter that comes with it. But first, we've got our reservoir, and I got to put another grommet there so I can stick this tube through. And I'm going to do that first before I cut it because I want to make sure my length is right between here and here. Where do I want to set it? So let's just stuff this through. Okay, so we've got it like that. Now you can always cut it way down, but I don't want to cut it, then remeasure it, cut more off, and waste it because I like this tubing. So what I'm going to do is let's get it down, figure out how far I want to be. I'm going to put it on this little stand. That looks to be about what I wanted. Give it a little bit of slack. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, first off, put my filter material into my housing. That. That's got these little ears. Now what you want to make sure, because I'm going to put this in like this, I want to make sure that I got these little ears up in the top, because that way I can just reach down there, I can open it up and wash this off and take it out. If I put it this way, now I might have to twist it and we're going to run into leaks maybe. So just remember to do it that way. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to measure it here. I'm just going to get an idea of where I want it. And I'll cut it. And I figure right about here. We got it cut to where we want it, and now we're just installing the filter. And then what I do is I just take that filter and I push it back. So now it's flush. with the grunt. And then all we have to do is we just tighten up our tent and stuff like that. Okay, so another thing that we're going to do is when you use these, you're running your nutrients through this reservoir and in. And what will happen is it'll get gunked up. So you need to run some kind of a pump to circulate the water and keep it mixed up, because if it settles, then it'll clog your filter and everything. Now I used to use some submergible pumps, but they would get caked up. So what I've done is I've gone something different. I bought these. They're EcoAir 2s, because what I was doing was I was pumping air into the roots to keep the oxygen flowing in the roots, and it would help. But what happened was with the AutoPots, if you don't have it exactly dialed in, sometimes it'll make the AutoPot leak. Now you're troubleshooting everything. I mean, I've had 60 gallons of water all over in my greenhouse before, so I don't use these in there anymore. But now I've started using them to circulate the water in here. And another part of it is I just got this at Home Depot, just some 1/4-inch air tubing. And what I did was I've already drilled a couple of holes in the back here. And what we'll do is we just feed it through the holes. And then we'll want to angle that down so that it's around, I like to have it so that it blows air down around where the filter is, so that maybe it keeps it moving there so it doesn't settle on that filter. And the next thing that I use is, this is just a timer, and I can set it up. What I like to do is I like to set it up to run for, say, 10 minutes, and then I got it set for every 40 minutes. So every 40 minutes, this will come on, and it'll turn on this pump. It'll turn on this pump, and then we'll circulate the water that way. And the reason I didn't go over the top is I tried that, but when I go to put the lid on, the lid isn't flush or square, so that's why we drilled the holes. Okay, so now I'm just gonna plug those other ends into these two ends, and then we'll go back inside the tank. Now that we've got our tubing kind of it's hooked up in the back and kind of where we want, now we want to kind of run it around, and it's kind of crazy, but see, these tubes won't stay down. But we got 3 big dogs. Every time a box comes, they think it's a chewy box. They got these bones all over the yard, so I use these. And all I'm going to do, it may take more than just one, and you can use anything, but I don't want to use metal because I don't want like I don't want a pipe to rust and everything. Bones seem so natural, and I just route them in there. Then I can run the tubing around. And then I just put it in there and I make sure that I get it close to the filter so that it'll stir up the water there and it'll keep it kind of clear. Now let's go back in the tent and let's look at this AutoPot. Okay, so now the last thing I'm going to put together is this AutoPot. As you can see, it's got little lines in the bottom. And what this is this little copper piece. This is a root disc, and what it's going to do is it's not going to allow the roots to grow down into my water structure there. So we'll put that in, copper up, and this is an air base. And a lot of times what you would do is you would just put your air dome in that, and that's what would give you the oxygen to your roots, but I don't use that anymore. So I'm going to put the disc in it. And if you did put the air dome in there, there's a little notch here for your hose to come up and go out the end of your bucket. Then we just put this in here, and then this just goes in there. And when we put one in here, I'll put a dome on it, and we'll be done. And there it is. Okay, now that we've got our tent set up, it's time for us to pot some plants. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please like, subscribe, and join us as we cultivate calm in the sunset of life.